Hi, guys, welcome to the Late Night Drives podcast. Today we have a short analysis of the Monaco GP, and to help me out, we have Sukriti with us. This is the fifth race of the year and one of the oldest circuits on the calendar. Monaco is always special, and McLaren ran a special livery which was Gulf inspired and a hark back to their past racing cars in the McLaren F1 all weekend long.
Yeah, a baby blue and a bright orange livery that looks so good that I think they should keep it all year round.
And Williams was celebrating their 750th Grand Prix weekend.
Apart from the obvious glamour to Monaco, it's actually a really challenging track for drivers because mistakes cost you a lot. It's really punishing.
And overtaking as well is really difficult due to the narrow streets, so qualifying here is everything. Coming to qualifying, Ferrari brought in a lot of pace this weekend with Charles Leclerc on provisional pole when he ended up crashing, exiting the swimming pool section at the chicane there.
And that brought an end to qualifying, even though Bottas and Max and Sainz were all out on flying laps and could have taken pole from him.
Yeah, I think it affected these three drivers the most probably of everybody else.
And the biggest question going into the race was would he need a gearbox change, giving him a five-place grid penalty?
Before we get to the race, though, surprisingly, Hamilton was off pace on Saturday and he seemed to be really struggling with his car, qualifying seventh.
Antonio Giovinazzi found himself in Q3 and actually qualified 10th. The Alfa Romeo is having a lot of pace this weekend. And Daniel Ricciardo was knocked out in Q2.
Come Sunday, Ferrari announced that Charles Leclerc will be racing without changing his gearbox, hence not taking any penalties. However, on his warm up lap, disaster struck and he had an issue with what we are assuming is not gearbox related, and what Ferrari has announced that is clearly not gearbox related.
Yeah, absolute heartbreak, because it's his home race and he's never even finished, and this time he didn't even get to start. And I'm sort of thinking of 2018 when Max also had a crash at the same corner in free practice 3, and that cost him his qualifying session.
Yeah, so rumor has it that what it ended up ending Charles Leclerc's race had to do with the crash, right? So
Yeah.
the big question is, why didn't Ferrari change the gearbox?
Yeah, they probably didn't want the penalty, but they've also come out and said that it wasn't gearbox related. But yeah, we'll see.
This gave a huge advantage to Red Bull, and they made the most out of this situation, even though Max started P2 because it was too late for them to reshuffle the grid, and so they just didn't have a pole sitter. He went on to win the race with an absolutely flawless drive.
Yeah, and he's leading the championship for the first time in his F1 career, and Red Bull is actually leading the Constructors' Championship as well for the first time since 2018. But it wasn't just Max winning the race that got them there, it was some brilliant strategy from their end. Starting ninth on the grid, they were able to get Perez to finish fourth by going in for a much later pit stop, overcutting Gasly, Vettel, and Hamilton. So Perez is finally up there with Max, getting Red Bull all the points that they've been wanting. So they really, I hope, stop complaining about him.
And really bad luck for Mercedes this time around with Bottas pitting on lap 31 and his wheel getting stuck because the wheel nut was cross threaded and they weren't able to remove it, which effectively took him out of the race.
And Bottas was starting P3, effectively P2. And so they really had a chance to grab some championship points, constructors and drivers. And I think this was his chance to sort of show the Mercedes team that he's as good as Hamilton, right?
But I think he also did that this weekend because at the end of the day, he has personally been flawless this entire weekend. With an uncompetitive car, not uncompetitive, but less competitive car than they normally have.
Yeah.
Putting it on P3 to start off with, I think it's just unfortunately team errors and these
Just
things
bad
happen.
luck.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just bad
just
luck.
bad luck. And their strategy with the Hamilton's pit stop didn't really work out either. They were hoping to undercut Gasly, and so Hamilton pitted fairly early. Except Gasly pitted on the very next lap and came out right back in front of him.
Yeah, he was stuck behind Gasly in P7 and he was hoping to get ahead, but Yeah, this clear strategy clearly didn't work out very well for them. Yeah, and I think he lost two places there, right? Because Vettel also came out in front of him post that.
Yeah, so we should talk about Aston Martin as well. Some really good strategy from their end. Vettel starting behind Hamilton, but was able to get out in front of both Hamilton and pulled off a really nice maneuver with Gasly.
And even with Stroll, the overcut only worked, right? Because they started him on the hard tire and he pitted on lap 58, almost like 20 laps or more ahead of most other drivers and their pit stops on lap 37 or so. And I mean, that really helped him stay ahead of both Ocon and Giovinazzi, and he claimed P8 as a result of that. So it was a great points haul for Aston Martin.
Pit stops, their strategy and their execution becomes so important in Monaco because overtaking is really, really difficult.
Sainz finished P2 for Ferrari, redeeming what could have been a disastrous weekend for them.
And Norris finished P3, rounding up the podium. A good drive from him. McLaren will be really happy with those points.
Yeah, especially considering where Daniel Ricciardo is and, Lando Norris actually lapping Ricciardo in the race. I think he has a lot of work to do and like a lot of things to think about, if he wants to get back into the points.
Yeah, and get himself comfortable in this car.
Yeah, absolutely. So, guys, these were the main highlights of this year's Monaco Grand Prix.
Yeah, the race results tend to be quite similar to the qualifying results.
Yeah, I think that's a result of it being such a narrow street circuit. So, with Baku coming up in a couple of weeks' time, it seems like this championship is really poised to be going down right to the wire, right? With Verstappen now leading Hamilton by 4 points.
And it's not just the top two. The fight is on for that third position, right? With Norris, Bottas, Perez, Sainz, and Leclerc all in it, just 18 points separating them.
And even in the Constructors' Championship, Red Bull leads Mercedes by just 1 point, with McLaren and Ferrari fighting for third place with 2 points between them. Mercedes had a great strategic weekend last race, and this race it was Red Bull's turn with their strategy really playing out well. So I just wonder what's going to happen next in 2 weeks' time at the next race at Baku. So Sukriti, what are your predictions for that?
So I think last time round we both said it was going to be Max, and I think we were right. So I'm really having to think long and hard. I don't know. I'm going to say Norris on the podium.
Really, you think so? I
Yeah.
think the next race is Azerbaijan. That's another street circuit, except it's a high-speed street circuit. So I don't know if I agree that Norris is going to be on the podium. I think it's going to be Mercedes, both drivers on the
Dominating.
podium.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they do well with the high-speed stuff. But yeah, let's see how things play out next weekend.
Yeah, so you're going for Mercedes and I'm saying Lando.
Yeah, it seems like we are not agreeing this week. So let's see who ends up being right.
Yeah.
All right, guys, thanks for tuning in and see you 2 weeks from now. Cheers. Have a good night.